Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Fermenta Biotech Limited Q2 FY22 earnings conference call hosted by Maybank Kim Eng. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Vikram Ramalingam from Maybank Kim Eng. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Stanford. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. Maybank Kim Eng is pleased to host the conference call for Fermenta Biotech Limited to discuss the second quarter and first half FY22 results ended in September 2021. From the management side, we have Mr. Satish Verma, the Executive Director of the company, Mr. Prashant Nagre, the Managing Director, and Mr. Sumesh Gandhi, the CFO of the company. Mr. Satish Verma will present the opening remarks, after which we'll have a Q&A session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Vikram. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the earnings conference call for the second quarter and first half of the financial year 2022. I hope you're all keeping safe and well under the current circumstances. I'm joined in this earnings call with our Managing Director, Mr. Prashant Nagre, and our CFO, Mr. Sumesh Gandhi. On the non-operational side, I'm happy to inform you that the Board of Directors of the company have approved the composite scheme of amalgamation and arrangement among DBK Investments Private Limited, which is the holding company of Fermenta Biotech, and AGN Properties Limited, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Fermenta Biotech Limited, to achieve various benefits, including simplified group and shareholding structure, creation of larger asset base, and also enhancing value for shareholders. Let me now ask Mr. Nagre and Mr. Gandhi to give the financial highlights. Thank you so much. Over to you, Prashant.
Prashant, sir, please unmute the line from your side.
Thank you, Satish. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the company's earnings call for quarter 2, financial year 22. Let me give you some key highlights for this quarter. In the second quarter, the volumes for vitamin D3 nutrition were higher by 13.4% on a year-on-year basis. However, they were lower by 17.2% basis on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Volumes for vitamin D3 animal nutrition continue to be under pressure, while the price trend of the same continued to remain in the same trajectory as the past 2 quarters. Our margins for the quarter under review were impacted due to change in the product mix in the vitamin D3 human nutrition. On the new products front, I am happy to state that the company has started the construction of its premix plant in Kulu, which is expected to be ready by the end of calendar year 22. The total cost of capex is expected to be approximately rupees 35 crore. The same shall be funded by a mix of internal accruals and debt. Now I request Mr. Sumesh Gandhi, our CFO, to give the financial highlights. Over to you, Sumesh.
Thank you, Prashant. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining this call today. To give a brief financial highlights for the quarter and half year ended 30th September 2022. On a consolidated basis, in Q2 of FY22, the revenue from operations for the quarter was rupees 99 crores, which was an increase of approximately 7% on a year-on-year basis and a decrease of 9% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Operating EBITDA reported was 16 crores, which was a decrease of about 42% on a year-on-year basis and a decrease of 39% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Operating EBITDA margins stood at 15.77%. Net profit after tax reported was about 4.5 crores, which was a decrease of 69% on a year-on-year basis and a decrease of 60% quarter-on-quarter basis. The tax margins stood at 4.5%. For the first half of financial year 22, the revenue from operations was 210 crores, which was an increase of approximately 11.6% year-on-year. Operating EBITDA reported was 42 crores, which decreased by about 16% year-on-year. Operating EBITDA margin stood at 19.81%. Net profit after tax was about 15.8 crores, which was a decrease by 44% on a year-on-year basis, while the PAT margins stood at 7.5%. However, I would also like to add here that the benefit of Section 10AA under the Income Tax Act for the SEZ units ceased to exist for the company from the financial year 22, and hence the PAT for the quarter and the half year is not comparable against the previous year, which is also the reason why you are seeing a significant jump in the tax expenses. With this, we can now open the floor to the question and answer session. Over to you, Stanford.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may please press star, then 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star, then 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who wishes to ask questions, please press star, then 1. The first question is from the line of Nirav Shah from Exemplar PMS. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Our total revenue for the second quarter from VD3 business seems to be around 73 crores. So can you give me the breakup of human and animal VD3 business out of that?
Sumesh?
Yeah, sure. So the breakup of vitamin D3 human and animal between both of them is in the ratio of 83 and 16% for the quarter of FY22. So 83% is human and 17% is animal.
That is for Q2 FY22, right?
Yes, for Q2 FY22.
Okay. And my second question was regarding our German subsidiary operations. Can you shed some light on that? As if I can see from our FY21 annual report, it is a gross asset base of around 34 crores with a revenue of around 4 crores, and at the same time, we have trade receivables of around 22 crores from that subsidiary and expenses recoverable of around 4 crores. So have we built our own production base there via subsidiary? Because if my memory serves me right, then we have said that we have built an asset-light model there by engaging third-party manufacturing there. And if it is so, then what kind of approvals we weren't able to obtain and what we have got now, and what's the revenue potential there?
Okay, I will take this question, Nirav. Nirav, you are right in remembering that we have not built a production base there. Most of the inventory receivables you see is because of us transferring the concentrate from here where the animal powder is made there. We get it manufactured through a third-party arrangement where we pay the toll manufacturing charges over in Germany to a third-party company, to another company. Most of the asset base you see there is inventory pile-up. It took us some time to get permissions to release the material in the market. To a large extent, our material getting started to production in our campaign basis that we had committed, and COVID came together. As of last month, we received all the permissions to start marketing this material. So you will start seeing from this quarter onwards, hopefully you will start seeing the asset base coming down because we will be starting to sell the material. You have also asked the question in terms of the potential from there. Most of the powder form of animal feed that we sell in oil form of different concentrations as well as powder form. Powder form being the most volume-wise, the most significant market for us as well as globally. We hope that most of our powder form will come from the German subsidiary through toll manufacturing. So the potential will be most of our non-oil animal feed business will the revenue will be generated from the German subsidiary, not from India. India, of course, there will be a transfer of the concentrate to German subsidiary, so on a standalone basis, you will see those numbers. But I think on consolidated, that will get net off, and you will see only the powder sales. So from this quarter on, definitely by next quarter.
Any rough numbers which you expect?
See, as we always mentioned that our share in the animal feed market is about 5 to 6% out of a market size of about 10 to 12,000 metric tons. 60 to 70% of
German subsidiary I'm talking about.
Yeah, 60 to 70% of our animal feed business goes through in the powder form, which will go from the German subsidiary. I will not be able to give a number on that because you are aware the animal feed prices fluctuate, how they fluctuate.
Yeah, got it.
So it will be difficult to give a number there. But if you can understand about the total 5 to 6%, out of which 60 to 70% is powder form, and that will go from Germany. So you can come to an understanding from there.
Got it. Thank you. I will get back in the queue.
Thank you, Nirav.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Garvit Goyal from Anived Research. Please go ahead. Garvit Goyal from Anived Research, your line is unmuted.
Good evening, sir.
Sure.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, Mr. Goyal, you are audible.
Yes. So my first question is, management is providing the guidance for lower CAGR of 15% approx. In spite of the fact that the future growth plans are on high side, and as the company has established a new plant at Sakhaya specifically for the nutraceutical, and we are targeting the revenue share of 30 to 40% in future next 3 to 4 years. So, and along with the recovery of the animal segment that is currently at 30 to 35% utilization, if I'm not wrong, then why the management is providing the guidance for such a low CAGR? Any update or any color on that?
See, when we are giving the guidance, Mr. Goyal, it is over a period of 5 to 6 years.
Okay, sir.
So it is more averaged out. You will definitely see a spike as and when, like for example, when our premise plant comes into play next year, end of next year. Maybe after the initial market entry period, you will see a significant jump. But if you average it over a period of 5, 6 years, that is a conservative estimate we would like to give.
Okay, right. And my second question is, as the company is now going for the backward integration, so it would need the cholesterol for the cholesterol manufacturing. There will be need of the wool grease. And if I'm not wrong, the company is procuring that from a New Zealand supplier, and there is a supply constant related to because of the fact that the New Zealand supplier Woolworks shall no longer accept the wool contained in the Econopath wool. So any problem related to that area in relation to supply of the wool grease to us, to our company?
I would request Mr. Prashant Nagre to address this. I personally didn't see any problem so far, but Mr. Prashant Nagre will try to address this.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So, Mr. Goyal, thank you so much for asking. The company has a very long-term arrangement which runs into multiples of 5 years of time period on the wool grease. As you know that the wool grease is made by washing the wool, and a very small component of this entire thing goes into the vitamin D3 space, lanolin being the major market and the cosmetics being the part of it. We, in addition to kind of having very comfortable inventory built up on this particular material, we get supplied from 2 different locations of this manufacturer. Even in this month, we have all our consignments are scheduled as they would normally be. So we are very confident of having no issues whatsoever in close consultation with the vendor on this front. It doesn't impact.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you, sir. I will get back into queue.
Thank you. Participants who would like to ask questions, please press star, then 1. The next question is from the line of Sunil Jain from Nirmal Bang. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. Hello? Can I go ahead?
Yeah, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Sunil, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Two questions, sir. One is what you had talked about D3 destocking or lower demand because of people have stock of that. So is that over and or is this continuing currently as well?
Mr. Sunilji, we would avoid talking about the current quarter or the next quarters. If you would appreciate that, we would restrict our discussions to the results already announced.
Okay. No, I was just asking about the environment and not asking any guidance or anything. Like how's the demand environment now?
See, if you would notice and track our company over the past few years, quarter on quarter there are always ups and downs.
Yeah.
So we would highly appreciate if we look at it in the long term rather than quarter on quarter basis. That's the reason we like to avoid discussing particular quarter, especially which is ongoing or going forward, because it is not a general trend that will emerge out of that. So it will be wrong for us to make any assumption of a general trend.
Okay. So another question relating to fish oil cholesterol. Was there any impact on profitability of fish oil cholesterol as well in this quarter or no?
See, fish oil cholesterol, although it is not on a OAGS basis, it might not be as much as vitamin D3, especially on the human side. Slightly lower it could be. But overall expenses on fish oil, because these are bulk orders and just a couple of customers, whereas D3 is more retail in nature. If you look at overall at EBITDA level, I think we are getting similar, close to similar margins. There has been no impact on the margins negatively in the last quarter or two.
Okay.
In the beginning, yes, we had lower margins, but otherwise we are earning decent margins now.
And lastly, about the wool grease which you prepare, you said that the orders are, you got a long-term tie-up of 5 years. But how the pricing?
Multiples of 5 years.
Yeah. Then how the pricing is decided? Is this also a long-term or it gets negotiated?
No, it's a formula based, which is fair on both the parties. It's a formula based. So we don't get hit by spot pricing. So that formula is such that we don't get hit by spot pricing, spot fluctuations. Neither on the upside we get hit, nor on the negative side the vendor doesn't get hit.
So any outlook you see on, because it has been 5-6 quarters, your animal vitamin D3 prices are continuing to remain low. So any outlook you see in that, or which you can see?
We do see a trend of them slightly going up. I would not say significantly increasing. The downward slide has stopped and slightly the upward movement hopefully started. It's wait and watch. As you know that it depends on China whether they wait for New Year's or Chinese New Year's, what they would like to do. As we always maintain that at the lower prices, it is not a sustainable business for any company, especially those companies which are only focusing mainly on animal feed. For us with the human thing, we get a fine balance.
Okay.
So the prices have to go up. It's a matter of wait and watch when it will go up. We are all prepared with everything. As you are aware that our Germany also has stocks. So if all goes well, then we should be able to tap the cycle.
Okay. Great, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jain.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star, then 1. The next question is from the line of Jigar Shah from Maybank. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My question is firstly, whether there was any one-off in the second quarter?
In terms of revenue or expenses?
Expenses.
I don't think so. Unless Sumesh,
No.
is there any?
No, there were not. No, there was no one-off expenses.
Okay. And my second question is that you've given a note regarding the German subsidiary and losses over there. And I believe the US subsidiary was also in loss at least last year. So how is the performance in the all the international subsidiaries this year in the first half? What is the amount of negative contribution coming from there? And what do you think, I mean, how much time it will take for those to turn around?
The exact numbers Sumesh will give, but before that I would just like to make a comment. As far as Germany is concerned, we have just got all the approvals for making the sales. So the company was more building up inventory to contract manufacturing and of course spending on its incorporation expenses and the running expenses. So you will see that losses on that front. Going forward, it should change because now we have got our approvals and we started selling the stock in the market. That is as far as the German subsidiary is concerned. Hopefully, by next year, I think everything should be smoothened out, and we should have only the working. It's not working capital, but the inventory cycle going on. That's it. Nothing more than that. We'll be sending concentrate from here. They'll be producing in campaign basis and liquidating in the market. So that is what will happen as far as Germany is concerned. If any, there are expenses that cannot be recouped because of the first 1.5 years of running expenses and incorporation expenses. That will be a small portion of the loss that we will absorb or we must have already absorbed. Number two, as far as the US subsidiary is concerned, again, US subsidiary's main market is into animal feed. You know that the animal feed is still under pretty suppressed the market. It should turn around soon. Now, the previous quarter, we had a marginal profit in the US subsidiary, but this quarter there was a loss. Sumesh, if you can give the exact numbers.
Yes. For the Germany, the total loss for the first half is 2.45 crores. And for the USA, first half, the loss is 66 lakhs.
And last year, first half, how much was this number?
No, first half we did not have the USA at all at that point of time. And the Germany, there wasn't anything much over there at the time. So US we acquired in December of 20.
So basically this 3.2, 3.3 crores of loss has come in this year's first half, right?
Yes.
Okay, and this would repeat in the second half as well?
I don't think so necessarily.
Hopefully not. If I may again, Jigar, if I may add here, hopefully not. As far as US is concerned, it depends on the market, but we don't think so we will see any significant losses there. Germany, again, it is already sitting on stock, what they bought from Fermenta India, as well as the overheads on the toll manufacturing. Depending on the animal feed prices, you will see up or down there.
Great. Best wishes to you.
Thank you so much, Jigar.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star, then 1. The next question is from the line of Nirav Shah from Exemplar PMS. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. Regarding our premix plant, what is what it is, when it is likely to get operational, and what kind of asset turn we expect out of that, and what kind of margin profile this segment enjoys?
We expect it to be completed by next calendar year end, to be operational by next calendar year end, the Phoenix plant. We are investing about 35 crores asset turnover. When it is fully operational and we get our market share based on the capacities, it should be at least 2 times. At least 2 times should be the revenue. Should be 2 times the capex.
And regarding margin profile?
Margin profile may not be as sweet as the D3 Human, but it will be decent. So our average overall guidance saying that over the next 5-6 years, average of 15% revenue growth while maintaining a 20 to 25% EBITDA, we should be able to manage.
Okay. And my second query was, we are now fully backward integrated as far as VD3 business is concerned, and logically this should benefit our margins considerably. But still, it's not reflecting in figures as far as our gross margins are concerned. In fact, our gross margins, if I see, are actually reduced. So why is it so? I can understand that pressure on enabled VD3 prices is one of the reasons for that. But that segment is now contributing only 17 to 20%, whereas human segment is contributing around 80%, where prices are more or less stable. So what's the reason for this?
Human, for the quarter we are talking about, last quarter that we are talking about on the human side, there is a mix of key accounts coming in where the prices, margins are a little lower because these are long-term relationships. And number 2, we started participating in tender business in the US, which is a new business for us. So that did compensate and add to the volumes part of it, but on the margins, they were lower. As far as backward integration and the margins to come in, there are 2 things I would like to point out here. Number 1 is cholesterol prices are going up globally. While we are able to produce our own and maintain it under check. However, the full benefit of the backward integration, our own cholesterol manufacturing has still not come into place. I've mentioned this in my previous calls as well, is because the valorization of the side streams. Wool grease when we buy, only 10 to 12% is cholesterol. The rest all, about 80% of it, which is into 2 side streams of lanolin, either alcohol or fatty acids. While lanolin fatty acids are low margin, is a low margin product, lanolin alcohol are slightly higher margin products. We have not yet been to valorize those side streams and enter the market with them. We are working on it. COVID really didn't help us on that front. Now that everything is coming back to normal, we started working on it at our plant level. So hopefully as we move forward over the next few quarters, we should start seeing that also revenue and the margins coming in from there, which will make our overall margins better.
Okay, so are we still using outside cholesterol? In what proportion we are using?
Proportion I will not be able to say, but I would say that most of it is in-house.
So most of it is in-house?
Most of it is in-house.
Okay. Regarding that US business, you talked that low margin, the tender business and other business, so that is going to continue in further quarters, or what kind of long-term margin profile we can expect?
Margins might be slightly lower, but with all the increased capacities that we have taken up, this is going to be an important portion of our revenue. This is additional business. The crystal sales or the API sales will come back, will bounce back. But this is again oil businesses, which is other formats of vitamin D3 human form, which is new business for us. So these additional volumes, irrespective of the margins, that is important for us to fully utilize our capacities that we have put in and increased so much over the last couple of years.
So we will be able to maintain 20% plus margin profile going
EBITDA
ahead?
margin over the long term, that is our guidance, that 15% on the revenue and while maintaining a 20%-25% EBITDA margin.
Okay. Thank you. That helped a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeraj.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anil Thakkar from Promo Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, have color on this real estate monetization, because we are seeing reports, a lot of reports that, real estate is coming back in full swing in Mumbai and all those places. So any guidance on that?
All I can say is we are in the market actively looking to monetize it. We also hope that it happens sooner than later. As and when we have anything concrete, I'm sure we'll make a disclosure.
Because, for last quite a few number of quarters, this work in progress only, and we can understand that, real estate market was not doing that great for last 2-3 years, at least. But now it is in a real well.
Yeah, we are also seeing that there is more activity there in terms of the general market as well. So accordingly, we are also talking to people. So as and when we have anything concrete, we'll definitely make the disclosures immediately.
Right. And the second question would be, Thane land and the CJ House property. They are in the name of Fermenta Biotech or any other subsidiary or kind of?
As far as Thane property is concerned, it is in the name of Fermenta Biotech Limited. CJ House is in a subsidiary which this decision to amalgamate these 3 companies will bring that CJ House also into the Fermenta, directly under Fermenta name.
Right, sir. And if I can squeeze in the third question, what has been the capacity utilization for us in human as well as animal feed?
Animal, as someone else also earlier mentioned, it is close to about 35% odd. On the human side, prior to this capacity expansion, which has just come this quarter, we have made an announcement that we are taking a shutdown in October. Prior to that, we were at almost 100% utilization on the human side.
Right. So post, once this shutdown, maintenance shutdown is over, do we think that we will be able to, post this, enhanced capacity, it will be 100% again?
See, generally, 90% should be a good utilization, 85 to 90%, because then you have that peak capacity left with you when there is a sudden surge in demand or something else happen in the global supplier side or something like that, where you can play an active role. So that is always important. Or if something happens in one of your plants or something like that, you should be able to match up. It has always been a race against that for us. So now, at last, we have put up this additional 25% capacities. Of course, we all wish that it gets immediately utilized, but we'll have to wait and see.
Right. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anilji.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star, then 1. The next question is from the line of Nikhil Shetty from BP Equities. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, any update on Saika Capex?
Saika, we have not yet taken the decision to start the Capex.
Okay, then what's the update on this vitamin D3 analog product? When do we see this product is getting commercialized?
Vitamin D3 analogs most probably will be linked to what we do in Saika.
So it will get delayed?
The analogs will get delayed. We are more currently focusing on seeing whether we can get the vegan D3 into the market faster, which we are going to do with phytosterols, that is vegetable oils. So that is the first target. So if once that starts, then we will get onto the analogs. And as you are aware, the K1 is also pending. So as soon as possible, we will get the K1 also into the market, vitamin K1, for which the plant has already been built. And we are putting in money into the premix plant. So just a little cautious on how much we stretch ourselves in terms of, or financial bandwidth.
Okay. So how much, CapEx we are incurring for, the mentioned projects for
Premix plant, we are going to put in about 35 crores, which the construction has already started.
Okay. When do we see the contribution from these products are coming into the numbers?
Premix and K1 should start hopefully by next year. At least we should start seeing the beginning of it. As far as premix is concerned, I think last quarter of 2022 or first quarter of 23 calendar year I'm talking about.
Okay.
We should start the contribution coming in.
Okay. And on a vitamin D3 human side, how much capacity we increase collectively in last 2 phase increase?
Collectively, both the plants put together should be close to about 40%.
40%, right. So during the first expansion, we mentioned about this will the current year itself. So the second part, how much time do you foresee to get absorbed?
Capacity to be absorbed?
Yeah, the second expansion.
It depends on the market conditions. Otherwise, over the next 2 years, it should get absorbed.
Okay, next 2 years. So is there any change in the vitamin D3 human side demand? Because you were quite positive about during the first expansion of 20%, and now you're saying like it will take 2 years to get absorbed the additional.
Yeah, but let me clarify myself. I said within 2 years. It's not that we have lost any positivity on the D3 thing. As and when we start the Saika project, we have plans to increase capacities there also, to put in more capacities for vitamin D3 there also. Vitamin D3 in general will continue to grow. When you keep one thing in mind that 70 to 80% of the global population is deficient, it is not that they were always deficient like this for hundreds of years. It is just the lifestyles changes have pushed this to this other extreme. We are quite positive on this molecule.
Okay, sir. Lastly, on a vitamin D3 human side prices, how are the trend in last 6 months? Is there a contraction from the peak or it is continuous?
Prices have been fairly stable, if not a little better. There absolutely no concern on the prices. There has not been any contraction.
Okay.
It's pretty stable.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikhil.
Participants, to ask a question, please press star, then 1. The next question is from the line of Ashok Shah from LFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Thanks for taking my question. Sir, we have expanded our capacity, and what could be at highest level realization sales could be achieved in the future years?
So it all depends. It's a combination of volumes and prices. You know that with the current, until about a quarter before our 100% capacity utilization that was there. After that switch, we did about 25% capacity increase. As far as animal is concerned, you are aware the price fluctuations, the way it moves, so it will be very difficult to put a number. On the D3 human side, yes, we have another 25% capacity increase. You can look at if the prices remain stable, then it's a simple calculation.
So that is a common thing, but what's on value-wise in a rupee term realizable possibility as per the current rate?
Sure. Sumesh, would you like to answer this?
Yeah. So we refrain from giving any kind of a value forward-looking statements and everything which are in a short-term perspective.
No, I do not want any guidance. If the vitamin D we are selling at X price, then at 25% capacity, X price multiplied by 25%. So what could be a realizable value?
So you know what is that's the same thing.
That's a 25% multiplied by the current thing by 25%. Whatever you see in the human thing.
So my current revenues of humans are known, so you can take 25% on that.
So because we are getting utilization of 100% in human category, and in animal category, its utilization is very low. So if you utilize human category, then can it increase by the 100 crores?
Tw- 25% will not give 100 crores increase. It will be slightly lower.
Slightly lower. So it could be a 75 crore?
Yeah, around 70 crores to 75 crores you can expect when it's fully utilized.
Thank you, sir. That's all I wanted. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sure, Ashwinji.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Madhav from Shastra Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, sir, and thanks for taking my question. So am I audible, sir?
Yes, Madhavji.
Yeah. Sir, my question is on the US business. So what is the contribution of US business in this quarter?
Sumesh?
Yeah. So in this quarter, the top line from the US business was 5 crore rupees.
5 crore?
Yes, top line.
Yeah. Are we selling both human and the animal portion at US?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that when we taken over this, the company of from US, I believe it is about 50 crores or so, something like the revenues of that company, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So, hello?
Yeah.
So if it is 50 crores, actually, why we are unable to get the same kind of revenue when it is being taken over by Fermenta?
Okay, I'll just answer this, Sumesh. Number one, we took majority stake, not that we've taken over and the operations are being completely handled by us. We still have the US partner, so there is no change in the way the company was being run. Fermenta is more a supportive role, and the erstwhile 100% owner, who is now holding about owners who are holding about 48%, are the managing directors and running the company. So there has not been any change either in the policies or the way the company is run. Absolutely no change since Fermenta took. That is point number one, sir. Number two, as I earlier mentioned, the US company which we took majority control in significantly was doing animal feed sales. After we partnered, we started increasing the human side business there, while the animal side business, as we have been continuously mentioning, is pretty depressed or suppressed right now. So as and when that comes back into action, you will start seeing change in the numbers there.
Okay. And on the regarding the EBITDA on the PAT margin, sir, when I'm looking at the raw material consumption versus the sales, it has gone up from 31% to 34% in this quarter when we make a comparison with respect to Q1. So why is it so, sir? See, actually most of the cholesterol we have been producing in-house, sir. So why this is increased?
As you mentioned, it's a matter of product mix, especially on the human side. While we saw a reduction in our sales on the API side, we saw that being compensated in terms of volumes by the oils that we sell. And this is some new tender business through the US subsidiary that we are participating in. The margins are lower.
So how much actually this tender has, sir? Actually, you are saying 5 crores only. So still not, actually, could not understand, sir. See, we are selling fish oil. So we have about 5 crore sales from US subsidiary. So fish oil cholesterol is actually the good margin. This is equivalent to human API. Human vitamin D.
More or less on the EBITDA level.
Why is it false, sir?
As I said, the crystal sales also we got through key accounts. whatever crystal sales happened, even after the reduction, the crystal sales are through key accounts. Key accounts are long-term relationships at much lower prices because these are key accounts. So that would be the impact. Nothing out of the ordinary or a one-time thing. I would not be able to say this is a one-time thing or something like that. Over the quarters, you might see this being narrowed down.
You are saying there is an impact because of the human vitamin D as well in this quarter?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when we actually, sir, when we can expect some kind of stabilization in margins? Now, even though this animal nutrition is not into the business, still the fluctuation is there in the margins. If you look at the PAT margins, it has been ranging from 50 to 4%. So this is huge fluctuation in margins without having any impact. How can we actually, we are working on the getting some better stabilization in the PAT margin, EBITDA margin, sir?
Again, I would only be able to repeat, Madhavji, is that you please look at what we are trying to express here is in the long term, we expect to maintain the 20-25% margin. The year is not yet over. So far, we have been able to maintain that margin levels, except for that extraordinary time when we went up to 35% when the animal prices were at their peak. Otherwise, we've always been able to maintain the 20-25%. We're fairly confident that we should be able to continue to do so.
Yeah, actually, sir, 4% is about actually completely unexpected lines. So that is actually thing. What I want to understand.
Pardon me, Madhavji?
No, PAT margin, see, our net profit is only 4% this quarter. There is actually no 4% is very low.
I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and my last question, sir. Actually, our inventory is being maintained at 162 crores. So, what is actually we are working on to reduce the inventory, sir?
As we said about if you're looking, this is on a consolidated basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we said, about 30-35 is lying in assets in the German subsidiary, which we got approvals now. So that is starting to get liquidated. We are working on the other inventories that we have built up, especially on the vitamin D3 raw materials and intermediates because of the COVID situation. Now that the COVID is gone, we are slowly starting to bring those levels down. Otherwise, right from vulgaris to cholesterol to other intermediate sets of D3, we have kept on building inventories so that we're not impacted by any COVID-related issues, whether it is our own factories or the supplier factories or at the logistics level. I must mention here that this is what has helped us, including last year, we were able to, during the peak of COVID times, we were able to perform well. And even in the beginning of this year, you know how the second wave was in the country, but we were able to continue to operate and perform. So this was all because of the steps we have taken to ensure that whatever has happened. You would appreciate that our company is also not foolproof as far as COVID impact is concerned. We have had our share of disturbances because of COVID.
Animal nutrition, we had an issue. That's right.
No, but not only on the business side, sir. Our team, their families, right at both the plants, people coming to work to the factory every day. We have had our share of issues, but we were able to negate most of it with our pre-planning.
Yeah, it's good, sir. And my last question, sir. So what is the actual environment in Puracy? Now everywhere in the world, actually, economies are being opened up, restrictions are being removed. So are we getting a sense that no, this animal nutrition actually business is making improvement?
We hope to see something very soon because the cycle has run, the downward cycle has gone long enough. We hope to see some improvement soon, sir. We can't predict because as we always maintain that mostly supply dynamics from China determines these prices. Very difficult to anticipate or guess what they will do. We just are prepared from our side for a good cycle. Otherwise, on the lower cycles, we will maintain our share, and anyway, we have the human nutrition. As and when the animal comes up, we'll be there to tap the cycle.
Are we not benefiting from the power crisis in China, sir?
We have not yet seen. Yeah, we are hearing rumors about it going to have an impact on our product also, but we have not yet seen a significant impact yet.
Our competitors' plants are running normally.
No idea, sir, what is happening there right now. Absolutely no news coming out of there, apart from the news articles on their power and steel and all those real estate things. There's really not much information coming out, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Randa. All the best, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star, then 1. Anyone who wishes to ask questions, please press star, then 1. The next question is from the line of N.K. Arora, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Arora.
I just wanted to know, sir, what is the status of the mandatory milk and oil fortification in India?
We'll ask Mr. Prashant Nagre to take this question. Prashant?
Yeah. Thank you, Satish. Arora ji, as the regulations stand currently, they are with the public consultation. The government of India wants on the oil fortification it to be made mandated, and that is under the kind of discussion. So they have not taken a decision. I think the direction is the entire thought process of FSSAI is to mandate the fortification. They are consulting various groups and will decide very soon as to what happens. But we'll have to wait, because I think COVID and many other things have taken priority in the government's thought process. But it is clear that nutrition overall is the focus of the current administration, and we are very hopeful that that will remain focused going forward. So we have to wait and watch as to when they will mandate it. But as far as oil is concerned, already 70% of packaged oil in India is fortified. So there is a very, very positive trend on that. And secondly, the FSSAI has now regulations which gives you the complete regulatory background in order to fortify the labels and the F+ Sampurna Poshan logo and everything. So I think we have made a progress as a country in this direction. Now we have to just wait till it is a decision by government is taken further on this. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, yes. Sir, I just wanted to know whether we are fully prepared to take the opportunity if it comes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we are.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star, then 1. As there are no further questions from the participants, on behalf of Maybank Kim, that concludes this conference. We thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.